Elena Brooks stepped out of the glass doors of Harper and Lane Accounting just as the sun was slipping behind the skyline, painting the clouds in shades of orange and purple. The city looked peaceful, but she felt anything but. Her heels clicked softly against the pavement as she checked the time on her phone, 7:42 p.m., much later than usual. She sighed and pulled her jacket tighter around herself. It had been one of those days, deadlines, angry clients, and a manager who kept piling on more work. All she wanted was to get home, kick off her shoes, and curl up on her couch with something warm to drink. She opened her messaging app and sent her sister a quick voice note. "Hey Claire, I'm finally heading home. Long day. I'll call you when I get in." The message sent with a soft whoosh. Elena slipped her phone into her pocket and started walking toward the subway exit. Her apartment was only 6 blocks away from the station. She had walked the route hundreds of times. It was familiar, predictable, safe. Or at least it used to be. As she moved through the crowded streets, she couldn't shake the strange feeling crawling under her skin. For days now, she had felt watched. Every time she turned a corner, it seemed like someone was just a step behind her. She'd brushed it off as stress, but tonight the feeling was stronger. At the subway, she stood on the platform, eyes scanning the people around her. Commuters stared at their phones, couples talked quietly, and a street musician played a slow, lonely tune. Nothing looked unusual, but Elena still felt uneasy. When her train arrived, she took a seat near the door. The car rattled through the tunnels, and she tried to distract herself by scrolling through social media. But her eyes kept drifting upward, catching reflections in the dark window, faces, shapes, shadows. She told herself she was imagining things. 5 stops later, she stepped off at her station. The crowd thinned as she climbed the stairs and emerged onto the street. Night had fully settled now. Streetlights cast long shadows over the sidewalks. Elena took a deep breath and began the familiar walk toward her apartment. Halfway down the first block, her phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. Unknown. Don't walk home alone. Her heart skipped. She stopped in her tracks and stared at the screen. Her fingers trembled as she typed. Elena, who is this? There was no reply. She looked around. People passed her, unaware. Cars drove by. Nothing seemed out of place, but her pulse was racing. She stuffed her phone back into her pocket and quickened her pace. The second block led toward an old underpass where a railway line crossed overhead. It was a darker stretch of road, poorly lit and always a little eerie. Elena normally avoided it at night, but tonight it was the shortest route. As she approached, she felt the air grow colder. The sound of traffic faded, replaced by the distant rumble of trains above. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown. You're being watched. Elena's breath caught in her throat. She spun around, searching for anyone who might be looking at her. A man leaned against a lamppost across the street. A woman walked her dog. No one seemed to be paying attention to her. Get a grip, she whispered to herself. She stepped into the underpass. Above her, metal rails creaked as a train passed. The walls were covered in graffiti, and puddles reflected the flickering streetlights. Her footsteps echoed too loudly. Then she heard something else. Footsteps. Not her own. Elena slowed, then stopped. The footsteps behind her stopped too. Her heart hammered in her chest. Slowly, she turned around. No one was there. But the feeling didn't go away. She turned back around and froze. Someone was standing at the far end of the underpass, a tall figure, mostly hidden in shadow. She couldn't see their face. "Hello?" she called, her voice barely more than a whisper. The figure didn't move. "Who are you?" Silence. Then, slowly, the figure stepped forward into the light. It was a man, maybe in his late 30s or early 40s. He was well dressed, not like someone who belonged in this forgotten place. His eyes were fixed on her. "Elena," he said. Her stomach dropped. "How do you know my name?" "I just want to talk. You don't have to be afraid." But she was terrified. She backed away. "Stay where you are." "Please," he said. "You've been asking questions. You've found things you shouldn't have. This doesn't have to get ugly." Her thoughts raced. So it's true. Someone really is after me. She turned and ran. Her shoes slapped against the wet pavement as she bolted out of the underpass and into the park beyond it. Trees loomed over her, and the path was dimly lit. She could hear him chasing her. "Stop!" he shouted. "You don't understand." But she didn't look back. Elena ran until her lungs burned. Finally, she reached a small clearing with a bench near the street. She collapsed onto it, gasping for air. Cars passed by nearby, their headlights flashing by like distant stars. She grabbed her phone with shaking hands and opened her messages. She typed one sentence: "I'm not safe." Before she could send it, a hand clamped down on her wrist. She screamed. The man stood over her, his face hard and desperate. "You're making this worse for yourself," he said. "You don't know what you're dealing with." "Let me go!" she cried, trying to pull away. For a moment, it looked like he might hurt her, but then something changed. He loosened his grip. "Get up," he said quietly. "You're coming with me." "What?" "If you stay here, they'll kill you. I'm the only chance you have." Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. Elena looked at him, fear and confusion swirling inside her. She didn't know whether to believe him, but she knew one thing: she couldn't stay. Reluctantly, she stood. Moments later, a security camera across the street would record Elena walking away with the man, disappearing into the darkness. It would be the last time anyone officially saw her. When police found her belongings on the bench the next morning, her phone, her jacket, her purse, it looked like she had vanished into thin air. But the truth was far more terrifying, and her story was only just beginning. Detective Mark Harlan had seen hundreds of missing person cases in his 23 years on the force, but something about Elena Brooks felt wrong from the start. Too clean, too quiet, too deliberate. Elena's belongings had been found neatly placed on a park bench beneath the railway overpass, phone on top, jacket folded, purse beside it. No blood, no signs of a struggle. Whoever left them there wanted them to be discovered. Harlan stood beneath the underpass, staring at the bench. Traffic roared above him. Commuters passed without a second glance. To the world, it was just another forgotten corner of the city. To him, it was a crime scene. "People don't disappear like this," he muttered. The phone was still powered on when police found it. No missed calls after 8:14 p.m., no GPS movement, just one unsent message in the drafts. "I'm not safe." That was enough to turn a missing person case into a full investigation. Elena's apartment was on the 4th floor of a quiet brick building. It looked like any other young woman's place: a couch, a small dining table, plants by the window. But Harlan noticed something immediately. Nothing was packed. No suitcase, no missing clothes, no sign she had planned to leave. Whatever happened to Elena was sudden. Her sister Claire sat on the couch, eyes red from crying. "She would never run away," she said. "She hated surprises. She planned everything." "Did she seem afraid lately?" Harlan asked. Claire hesitated. "Yes, but she wouldn't tell me why. She kept saying she'd made a mistake and that someone wouldn't leave her alone." "What kind of mistake?" "She wouldn't say." Nodded. "Did she mention anyone? A man? A coworker?" Claire's face tightened. "There was someone. She said she met him through work. He scared her." At Harper and Lane Accounting, Elena's coworkers were shaken. Her desk was still covered in unfinished reports. A small cactus plant sat beside her keyboard. "She was jumpy," her manager admitted, "always checking behind her. I thought she was just stressed. One coworker, a quiet woman named Jenna, leaned in and lowered her voice. She told me she was being followed. She said someone kept texting her from different numbers. Did she show you? No, but she looked terrified. Harlan checked Elena's phone records. There were dozens of messages from unknown numbers in the past 3 weeks. Most had been deleted, but a few remained. Don't trust him. You know too much. This will end badly. Harlan felt a chill run through him. The deeper he looked, the stranger Elena's life became. Her bank account showed thousands of dollars in recent cash withdrawals, not spent, withdrawn. No purchases, no travel bookings. Why would a woman living paycheck to paycheck pull out 10 grand in cash? Harlan asked the forensic accountant. No idea, but it looks like she was preparing for something, or running from something. Then came the biggest discovery. In Elena's bedroom, tucked behind a stack of old books, was a second laptop. It wasn't connected to any cloud account. It was password protected. The tech unit cracked it within hours. What they found made Harlan's stomach tighten. Dozens of photos, audio recordings, emails, all of them centered on one man, Thomas Reed. Reed was a powerful real estate developer, wealthy, respected, married, and deeply connected in the city. He funded charities. He appeared on television. He was untouchable. But Elena had been following him. The files showed secret meetings, hidden cameras, recordings of phone calls. One audio clip captured Reed arguing with someone, Elena. "You don't understand what you're involved in," Reed's voice said. "I understand you're lying, and I have proof," Elena replied in the recording. Another recording was worse. "If you expose me, you won't live long enough to regret it," Reed said coldly. Harlan leaned back in his chair. Elena Brooks wasn't just a frightened woman. She was a whistleblower. Police brought Thomas Reed in for questioning that afternoon. Reed sat calmly across from Harlan, dressed in a tailored suit, not a wrinkle in sight. "I have no idea who Elena Brooks is," he said smoothly. Harlan slid a photo across the table. Elena sitting in a cafe with Reed, taken just 2 weeks earlier. Reed's eyes flickered. "She was an assistant who approached me about an accounting issue, that's all." "Then why do you have 43 phone calls with her?" Silence. Reed finally sighed. "She was unstable. She started accusing me of things. I tried to get her to stop." "By threatening her?" "I never threatened her," Reed snapped. Harlan played the audio. Reed's face turned pale. His lawyer quickly ended the interview. That night, Harlan couldn't sleep. Something didn't add up. If Reed wanted Elena dead, her body would have been found. Powerful men didn't leave mysteries. They left corpses. But Elena wasn't dead. Elena was missing, and missing was worse. The next morning, a new witness came forward. A rideshare driver named Miguel walked into the station, nervous and shaking. "I think I picked up the missing woman," he said. Harlan leaned forward. "When?" "The night she disappeared, near the park." Miguel explained that Elena had jumped into his car, crying, begging him to drive. "She kept looking out the window. She said someone was going to kill her." "Where did you take her?" "I told him to head towards the highway, out of the city." Harlan's heart pounded. "Did you drop her off?" Miguel swallowed. "No. Another car cut us off, a black SUV. 2 men got out. They said they were police." "They weren't." Miguel nodded. "They took her." Elena Brooks hadn't vanished. She had been taken, and someone powerful had made sure she never came back. Detective Mark Harlan stared at Miguel across the interview table, barely blinking. The rideshare driver's hands were still trembling as he described the black SUV and the men who had taken Elena. Did you see their faces? Harlan asked. One of them, Miguel said. Tall, scar on his cheek. He flashed a badge, but it didn't look real. Did Elena say anything before they took her? Miguel swallowed. She screamed my name. She said, "They found me." That was all Harlan needed to hear. Elena hadn't just been in danger, she had been hunted. Within hours, traffic cameras near the highway were pulled. Frame by frame, analysts tracked Miguel's car. Then, just as he said, a black SUV cut him off. Two men stepped out. One matched Miguel's description. They forced Elena into the back seat. The SUV drove away. It didn't head toward the city, it went the opposite direction. Harlan now knew something chilling. Elena had escaped once, only to be captured by someone else. Someone organized, someone professional. This wasn't a random crime, it was a disappearance for hire. The license plate on the SUV had been stolen, but the vehicle itself was caught on several cameras as it moved through industrial areas on the edge of town. Finally, it vanished near a group of abandoned warehouses by the river. Harlan and his team raided the location. What they found was worse than anyone expected. The warehouse wasn't empty, it was a holding facility. Mattresses lined the walls, chains hung from beams, women's clothes were piled in corners. Several terrified young women were found locked inside. But Elena wasn't there. One of the women whispered something that made Harlan's blood run cold. "She was here," the girl said, "the one you're looking for. They called her the problem." "What happened to her?" "They moved her," the girl said. "They said she was worth too much to keep here." Phones and documents were seized from the warehouse. One name appeared over and over: Victor Hale, a private security consultant, in reality a fixer for powerful people. Hale didn't kill problems, he made them disappear. Harlan dug deeper. Hale had no official criminal record, but his shadow was everywhere. Witnesses changed their stories after speaking to him. People vanished after being in his custody. Court cases collapsed. And now Elena Brooks had crossed his path. A breakthrough came from an unexpected place: Elena's hidden laptop. Buried in one of her encrypted folders was a draft email she never sent. To Claire, subject, "If anything happens to me." In it, Elena wrote that Thomas Reed had hired someone named Victor Hale to handle her. She said she planned to run if things got worse, but she didn't know how far it would go. Harlan brought Reed back in. "You hired Hale," Harlan said flatly. Reed didn't deny it this time. "She was destroying my life. She had documents. I just wanted her to stop." "So you sold her to traffickers?" Harlan snapped. Reed's face drained of color. "No, I hired Hale to scare her, to make her leave town. That's all." "You knew who he was." Reed hesitated. "That man doesn't just scare people, he erases them." They tracked Hale through burner phones and shell companies. Every lead pointed to one horrifying truth: Elena hadn't been killed, she had been sold. Victor Hale had transferred her to a trafficking ring that specialized in moving women out of the country, where they were given new names, new faces, and no way back. Elena had vanished into the darkest network in the world. One of the rescued women from the warehouse came forward again. "She tried to escape. Elena, she was brave. She told us someone was coming for her." "Did she make it?" Harlan asked. The girl shook her head. "They caught her. Hale said she was too dangerous to keep nearby." Shipping records from the docks showed a cargo truck leaving the city the same night Elena was taken from the warehouse. Inside was a hidden compartment. Inside that, a list. One name on it was Elena Brooks. Harlan stood on the pier as the truth hit him like a wave. Elena had survived the underpass, she had survived the chase, she had even survived the first kidnapping, but she hadn't escaped the system designed to make people disappear forever. And someone in that system was still alive and free: Victor Hale. And if Hale was still out there, then Elena might be too. Detective Mark Harlan stood alone in the evidence room, staring at the single photograph that now haunted him. It was a grainy still pulled from a port security camera. A line of women was being guided into the back of a cargo truck under heavy guard. Their heads were down, faces hidden. But one of them had lifted her eyes for just a second. Even in low resolution, Harlan recognized her. Elena Brooks. She was alive, but not free. The shipping container she'd been loaded into had left the port just before dawn. Its destination was listed as a warehouse in Eastern Europe, a common cover for illegal trafficking routes. By the time authorities realized what had happened, the container was already on a ship crossing the Atlantic. The system had done what it was designed to do: erase her. Victor Hale disappeared the same night. His apartment was empty, his bank accounts were drained, his phones were smashed. A man like him didn't run unless he knew someone was close. And Harlan was close. Thomas Reed was arrested on federal charges: conspiracy, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and human trafficking. His face was all over the news. The city watched in shock as the powerful man fell. But Harlan knew the truth was uglier. Reed had opened the door, Hale had turned the lock, and Elena was paying the price. Weeks passed. Raids were conducted across several countries. Trafficking routes were shut down. Dozens of women were rescued. But Elena Brooks was never among them. Her name became just another file in an international database: missing. Then 6 months later, something unexpected happened. A tip arrived from a European police agency. They had intercepted an underground website used by traffickers. Among the blurry photos of women being sold was one that made Harlan's heart stop. A woman with tired eyes and a scar on her wrist. The name attached to the photo was not Elena, but the face was hers. The trail led to a small town far from any major city. Local police raided a hidden compound. More women were freed. But Elena wasn't there. She had been moved again. Always one step ahead. Always just out of reach. Years passed. The world moved on. But Harlan never did. He checked every database, every photo, every rumor. Elena became his unfinished case, the one he could never close. Then one night, while scrolling through an online forum for missing persons, he saw it. A photo posted by a tourist. A woman in a crowded street market in another country. Older, thinner, but unmistakable. Elena Brooks. The caption read, "Does anyone know this woman? She helped me when I was lost." Harlan forwarded the photo to every agency he knew. The location was traced. By the time they arrived, she was gone. But this time, something was different. She had left something behind. A note hidden beneath a loose brick in the market wall. "I'm still alive. Don't stop looking." Elena had survived, not because the system let her, but because she refused to disappear. And somewhere out there, she was still fighting her way back. The world thought her story was over. It wasn't. It had just gone underground.